Today's guest is Laura Sauter, who is a seasoned brand expert, educator, and speaker. And with brand strategy and design, she supports entrepreneurs and longtime company founders alike to feel confident during that time of corporate transition, whether that means they're launching, merging, or creating a succession plan. And she has consulted for multinational companies such as Fidelity, Biogen, and TJ Maxx, as well as small and mid-sized companies. So, Laura, thank you very much for coming on. How are you doing today?
I'm great. It's great to be here, and it's a beautiful day in Boston.
Awesome. Well, no better way to do this than on a beautiful day. So, out of all the things you could be doing on your beautiful day, I appreciate you being here to do this with me. So, yeah, why don't you give us a little bit of context on, who you are, and clearly you have this like very diverse and big career behind you. So, I'd love for you to just contextualize, how you got to doing what you're doing and what you're all about.
Yeah, thank you for that. My business is 21, almost 22 years old. I started off in New York City doing the big agency thing. And when I moved to Boston with a 14-week-old baby, the market was crazy. And I said to myself, I'm creative. Why don't I do this by myself? Let's go. So I am kind of a reluctant entrepreneur, I'd say. I wasn't thinking about doing that. I loved being in corporate. I love teams. I love the bigger projects, but it's been 2 decades plus, and I think I'm sticking with it.
Yeah, I would say after 2 decades, it's like if you haven't thrown in the towel yet, I think you're in this for the long haul. So
Yeah.
absolutely. So yeah, then I'd love to then just dive into, like I said, clearly you have this wealth of experience. Clearly, as an accidental entrepreneur, you're like, okay, well, this is actually working for me, so I'm going to keep it going. So what are the top problems that you are facing right now?
Right now, I mean, truthfully, I feel pretty darn good. I know that headspace is very important to you. So I'll speak about I'm entering empty nesterhood, and I have more brain space than I've ever had before. I mean, it's amazing, even though I maintain an office and I have as many boundaries as I think any parent probably can have. Just having that levity of more brain space has afforded me, I think, more creativity and more time. Even though it's not more hours on the clock, it's just like more time. So I think it's the problem right now is just what to do with that extra time. Do I write a book? Do I spend more time on marketing? Do I take more time to take care of myself? It's more about I have a cushion that I haven't had in recent years.
I mean, that's a good spot to be in, and even though it's a good problem to have, it's still a problem. So I get that. So then I would say, I guess to kind of start with that is like, what problem are you actually solving for? Like, I have this extra space, I have this extra mental capacity. Okay, should I do this? Should I do that? Write a book, do whatever. Like, that's kind of the form that might take, but like, what's the actual function? Like, what are you actually solving for?
um I think I think it's really about like achieving the dream, if you will. Like having my own business is satisfying some part of me, some goal, ambition that I can actually do this, I can achieve this. But then that next piece is like, wow, work-life balance. Do I travel more? Do I write the book? Do I speak on more podcasts and share the now 30 years of experience that I have? I'm entering into that kind of guru period where I don't have to like prove myself the way sometimes I felt in the past I had to do.
Okay. So that's kind of a deeper explanation of where you're at. So it's still not really clear what it is that you're like looking to solve for. So you mentioned like achieving the dream. So what does that actually mean for you?
Hmm. I think really work-life balance.
Okay. So get more specific. What does that look like? Why is that the dream? Like if you dive deeper into that.
So I think that having my own business, there's always that there's that beauty and the curse of having your own business. So you can you can work your own hours. You are your own boss. You can take time off whenever you want. You're not limited by what the boss tells you can do. On the other hand, are you really ever off being your own boss? Not really, because if you're not working, you're not getting paid. If you're not working, your business isn't working. So to really achieve work-life balance, you can actually leave and have that peace of mind that either the business is okay, or maybe there's virtual assistants helping in the background, or other types of support mechanisms, but that I can actually leave and go 3 weeks to Italy, which is what I'm doing in end of May. And being okay with, oh, I'm going to take 2 hours out of a Monday and be on a podcast, or I'm going to take multiple hours a day and tick away at a book. So to really achieve that freedom of like not feeling bad while I'm off my business, not feeling bad when I'm in my business that I should be taking out more time for me, but really truly being in the business when I'm in the business, and being okay with those hours, and being okay with being off the business when I'm really off the business.
Okay.
Because
And then, yeah, go ahead.
I think in previous versions of myself, I always felt a little bad that I should be working, or I should be taking less time away from work, more time away from work.
And that has changed, like now, that is different now.
I think that's a more recent development as my mind starts to, again, you never stop being a parent, but I feel like entering into empty nesthood, my youngest just accepted, she committed to her college Friday / today was the day in the US. It's like, college acceptance deadline day. So it's sort of like, and over the last few months, as that process is more solidified, there's just that security blanket that I'm, my time is my own.
Okay. So if your time is your own, right? So you had mentioned work-life balance. You had mentioned, okay, achieving the dream. You had mentioned, do I write a book? Do I go on different podcasts? So what is your ultimate desire? Like, what is it that you actually want in an ideal case scenario?
Like big picture, like, if I died tomorrow, it would be like the headline of my obituary.
More like, okay, so you win $60 million and you don't have to worry about money. What are you doing?
Um, so I definitely, being a single mom for so many years, I think travel is probably number one, and just having carte blanche. If I had no concerns ever, I would definitely spend at least half the year traveling.
Okay. So travel then is number one. Okay. And then would you do anything for work, or would you just like I'm just traveling, and then if I'm not traveling, I'm just kind of laying low, reading a book and enjoying the sunshine. Like what are you doing other?
I so I truthfully think I'll always work even into quote unquote retirement years, because I love people. I love solving problems. And I get a spark. I get like that adrenaline and euphoric feeling of like, you know, solidifying a client engagement, getting going, getting deep into the weeds of a company's business. So I do love that consultant style work that I do. And I don't think I'll ever tire of that. Like, I love it. But I've mentioned the book a million times. I feel like it is a little bit of a luxury to write a book, and I definitely would spend more time writing and investing in the more traditional creative side of me that has been undernourished. I think, I went to art school. I love painting, drawing, photography. Those are creative pursuits that really got backburnered as the, technology piece of my business, became more prevalent. And I miss that. I mean, I'm on a board of a local arts organization here in Boston, And, one of the reasons was just to kind of surround myself with art on a daily, monthly basis. And, being on the road, I can imagine myself really getting into photography, truthfully, if I traveled more.
Okay. So is this really more about, work-life balance and what do I do with the extra mental real estate that I have now? Or is it really more about getting back in tune with yourself, what you actually find fulfilling, and finding out ways to integrate that with the money you do need to make on an ongoing basis?
I think a little bit of both. I mean, I think the older I get, the choosier I become in terms of how I spend my time, who I spend my time with, and what I'm doing. So, in the last year, I picked up dancing, doing bachata dancing. It just fuels my soul. I love it. Am I very good at it? Probably not very good at it, but it makes me happy. And, that is both. It's like coming into touch with what fulfills me with that extra mind space balance. Again, would I have taken a couple of hours out of my productive time in the evening to go to a dance class in my previous life? No, because that would be an opportunity for email follow-ups or postings for the next morning or whatever. But now I'm off dancing. So I think it's a little bit of both.
Got it. So I think that's actually a very beautiful thing because you're at the stage of life where you can get to make these decisions. This is an opportunity for you to work on filling your own cup with things outside of work. And it seems like you're starting to insert those pieces into your life, right? And it's like the energy changes when you talk about them. You light up more. Like it's a beautiful thing. So I guess my question to you, kind of going back to what I originally started asking about, it's like you have this awareness around what fills your cup. You know what you want to experience more of. So you're doing active steps to go there. So what actually is the problem that is in front of you?
Hmm. I guess the the expectation that I run my business, profitably and show up for clients. And, at the end of the day, I want to start playing, there's a little kid side of me that's like, having that, you know, that time to shine. But then there's the reality of, being responsible for a family. And I'm now in a partnership and, you know, keeping the lights on, if you will, keeping the brand of Agency Bell alive and keeping my reputation alive.
Got it. So then it's really more about the conflict between there's a playful side of me that's been neglected for so long. How do I reconcile that with the fact that, okay, I still have some responsibilities? Like, would that be more accurate for you?
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess my question to you is why does it have to be one or the other?
I I would maintain it doesn't. I mean, I feel like I'm entering into a fulfillment of that dream of like work-life balance. I feel like I've promoted it and I've practiced some of it over my life, over my adult life, but I really am feeling it now. Like I think I was practicing work-life balance, but now I'm balance, if that makes sense, especially because of the mind real estate that was always there. It's like if your mind is always full of, in this case, the extra was obviously work and family, and family when you're a single parent takes a lot of real estate. um and so having that, it's like, I don't know, years ago I redid my kitchen and we knocked down walls and we found this whole extra closet that had been walled off, and it was like such a bonus, It was like, I didn't need this, but wow, this is awesome. And so I kind of feel like that, like I didn't really need this because I was practicing work-life balance, but now I'm doing it.
So I would actually just say from the outside looking in, it almost sounds to me like there's a part of you that's like searching for permission to just like be your full self, because it's like I was practicing work-life balance. I was more responsible before. I do know what it is that I want more of in my life. I'm taking active steps towards it. Right. And I keep going back, okay, well, that's all great. Sounds awesome. Like, well, what's the actual problem? And it sounds to me like there's a part of you that's like, it wants to go all in and just embrace that and accept it and take ownership of it. But it's almost like you're looking for permission. Like, I got to find a problem here that's solvable. So I have the like justification that I can go and dance. You know what I mean? So what comes up for you when I share that?
You know, the first thing that came up was like who do I ask permission from? Because like in the, when that word is very like parental, like, oh, let me ask my mom if I can go out. And so, I guess what came up was just like, well, who would I ask? But obviously the person is me, not a dad or mom. So I think what comes up is just, you know, I mean, it's a smart question and probably pretty observant. I mean, um, there's I guess no hesitation that I deserve it, need it, should do it, can do it. And, I declare I give myself permission to play.
Love it. And just out of curiosity, like historically, so let's just say growing up or stuff like that, like was permission a theme in like those childhood experiences?
Um, Truthfully not. I had a pretty hands-off mom and dad in terms of, for example, my parents were in academia and I was interested in design, and and even before that I did modeling and TV acting and things, and I was doing things that I wanted to do that they had not like they had no personal connection with or knowledge of. So they were like, we have no idea what that is or how to do it. If you can figure out how to do it, go do it. And so that was really that limitlessness available to me, but I also had no hand holding. So, I wasn't going to, in today's parenting world, everything is so serving to the child. Like, here's 10 like I have a daughter in college, like here are 10 internships you should check out, lots of help, lots of support. And I didn't get any of that from them. So I didn't really need their permission. It was more like, you know, like they were kind of like, you do you.
Got it. Which is actually like a very awesome. So I'm glad that was your experience through that time. And just out of curiosity, like, did you do well in school, like growing up?
I did. I went to a pretty fancy like nursery school through 12th grade, private school in Chicago. And the the peers were incredible. Like, the people who I went to school with are leaders in today's world, and mostly math and science. I was the art geek. So, I did very well in normal subjects, but I was like the outlier in terms of more the creative one.
Got it. And do you think that your parents would have objected to all of your other interests that you got free reign in if your marks were bad?
Maybe. I mean, academics were very important to them. In fact, when my modeling and acting was really taking, going strong, there was this one soap opera in New York City that wanted to create a role for me. And my PhD father sat me down in the hallway and he never said anything to me about anything. But he sat me down and he was like, "What are you doing here, kid? Like, this is going overboard." And I do think about that. I mean, I'm glad I wasn't in the soap opera because it was pretty trashy TV, but I do wonder what it would have been like, what would have happened if I'd moved to New York City as a kid and been on a soap opera and basically gotten soap opera tutor, in between sets or whatever. And I would have turned into a TV person. Like, that's just so weird, And I haven't done any TV or acting or modeling since being a kid. So it's funny to think about.
Got it. Yeah, I mean, it's just a pretty cool anecdote, especially to explore like what could have been. Like, there's not many people that get the opportunity to think like, okay, well, what if I was on this like soap opera? So kudos to you there.
You.
And to just bring it back to the original permission thing, right? Because you had mentioned, my dad sat me down. He said, "This is getting overboard." So what I would invite you to consider, and this might just go beyond, the scope of what we can do here, but if a response like that is like, okay, well, okay, this is all good and great, but like you're going overboard now. And what you're going overboard with is essentially like the expanding of your artistic expression. That is something to consider in the scope of what you're going through right now and this kind of need to ask for permission, because when it comes to parents that have a very strong need for results in the traditional sense, so in this instance academia and marks, and you're allowed to do your thing as long as it never interferes with the results, like you could make a parallel that that's exactly how you handle the responsibilities of your own child, right? Like, hey, like right now, I need to focus on the business. I need to do the things that I need to do. And kudos to you that's a beautiful thing. And as a result of that, I've neglected all of my artistic side, i.e., the stuff that needed to be handled wasn't handled. So therefore, there's no capacity for all this other stuff. Now, there is capacity for it, but the internal conflict in you is like, well, to what degree can I combine both and say okay to both, etc. So while the permission for you might not be explicit in that I have to go ask somebody, because that wasn't a pattern, it might actually be more implicit. And that's kind of my invitation for you to explore of like, well, do I need it, like the sense of permission because all the check boxes were checked and now I have the space for all this other stuff. So anyway, I know it's a lot of stuff thrown your way. What if anything is landing?
Um, well, I think it's like what could have been had I given myself permission to play more fully, more regularly throughout my earlier adult life is kind of what's landing. And I mean, I a million years ago kind of coined this phrase of living a portfolio life, and like how a financial advisor would never tell you to just do, large caps. They want a well diversified portfolio. And I feel like living a portfolio life is important. So being well rounded, being, doing volunteer work, doing self, personal development, doing, exercise, yoga, whatever it is for you, obviously working, being in a relationship, like, you know, like I think there's this wheel of, life, and you can shade in like how well each of those segments are for you. And if the wheel can't roll, and it's bobbly or jumpy, then you need to work on filling out those quadrants. And so I feel like, I think again, like I've been practicing that and giving myself permission, but the the reality, it's like practice versus experience, and there's like a deeper feeling of the experience now than while I was practicing. So I don't know if that any of that's making sense, but
No, I mean, it's totally fair because that's what's coming up for you. So it's relevant. Yeah, and I think it absolutely makes sense given everything that you've shared today. And really what I would just say is, since you are aware that like I can give myself permission to now explore all these things, like, I'm celebrating you for that, and encouraging you to dive deeper into that, because I think that interplay of the art, the passion, and then whatever the next business project's going to be is really what's going to open up the door for fulfillment. So if that feels complete for you, I mean, I'm good to kind of close it off here. Well, what's your thoughts on that?
Oh yeah, I think that's a good place to pause for that part. And I just wrote down permission to play.
Love it. Perfect. Well, in that case, why don't you close us off and let everybody know, where to find you, who's the best person to find you. Floor is yours for that.
Awesome. So I'm Laura Sauter, and my company name is Agency Bell. It's 1L, not two. And LinkedIn is really the best place to find me. I am based in Boston. And again, the company name is Agency Bell. I'm happy to connect really with anyone. Specifically, the types of clients that I work with are in transition. They are either launching a company, merging, diverging, succession planning, any type of transition in a client's life is when a rebrand is going to be necessary. And I do the brand strategy and brand design, brand management of that new brand. So I do have a Calendly on my website, which is agencybell.com. Very easy to find, 1L. And you can link in with me there, and we can get on a Zoom and chat.
Love it. Well, as always, we'll include that in the show notes. Laura, thank you very much for coming on, and for everybody else listening, we'll see you on the next one.
Thank you.